Kia ora, talofa, namaste, haere mai, and welcome to this week's episode of the Niche Cage Variety Show, where we're delivering a buffet of Aotearoa sporting notes and nuggets and kōrero after another funky weekend of Kiwi sporting action. Prior to this, we recorded our subscriber podcast, which goes out to all the members of the Patreon whānau and to anyone who is a paid subscription on Substack. We did a big old yarn about the Ashes. We talked about the New Zealand Warriors, and we compared vibes across the three ferns, the tall ferns, white ferns, and football ferns. So that will be live on Patreon and sent out to the paid subscribers on Substack this afternoon as well. Those are the best way to support the Niche Case directly. You can join the Patreon whānau. You can pay for a Substack subscription. You don't have to, but you can do. Then you get access to this bonus podcast every week. Otherwise, you can just tell a friend, subscribe, watch, like, and enjoy all the Niche Case content. We do have our website, theniche-case.com, where you can read about Aotearoa sports. And of course, if you do sign up to the regular subscription with Substack, you get our email newsletter coming at you every Monday and Friday evening, where we drop all things Niche Case straight to you with some bonus yarns written just for those email newsletters as well. So there's various ways to enjoy the Niche Case mahi. There's various ways to follow along with our Aotearoa sporting beat. And we appreciate anyone who is here with us in this moment, because it's a beautiful moment to be alive in the absolute depths of winter. If only the Aotearoa Warriors knew how to play wet weather footy in Auckland, that would have been great, because anyone in Auckland, let alone Aotearoa in the middle of winter, should know how to play wet weather footy. I'm jumping the gun. I need some mindfulness. Nico the Wildcard, can you please help us out with some mindfulness to start our show?
That I can do. I can offer you up some mindfulness that comes from Virgil's Georgics book, which is obviously written in Latin, so it has a few different translations. But then I was looking at this quote. The initial one is fine. Blessed is he who has been able to win knowledge of the courses of things. That's fine. That's a nice quote. But I liked in particular translation that turned it into a poem, which goes, happy the man who, studying nature's laws, through known effects, can trace the secret cause. I like that one better. So there you go.
Yeah, rhymes.
Seems to be just telling you if you study nature, you can understand how things work.
I would definitely agree with that. I'm glad you offered a clarification, because I was like, it rhymes, but it's also quite convoluted.
Rhymings get tricky with that, where you get distracted by the rhyme, and then it's like, wait, but what are you actually saying? Like, because they tend to get clouded when you have to mix and match words in order to make them rhyme. You got to sort of reverse engineer them. But yeah, I assume that's what he's saying, at least.
I would say, like, any connection to nature, any grounding or just being in tune with nature, that's alignment, that is synchronicity, and that is basically what we are here to do on planet Earth. Let's crack into some Aotearoa sport. I'm jumping the gun again. I'm going to go first, and I'm going to say the White Ferns, they lost the ODI series in Sri Lanka, or lost the first game by a big margin, won the second game by a big margin. I was like, oh, maybe the White Ferns, they're adapting to conditions. They're learning how to play cricket in Sri Lanka, because very few of them have been there before. Then they get smoked in the third and final ODI. Chamari Atapatu, 2 centuries in the series, monster strike rate. The White Ferns struggled to contain her, and now they have an ODI series loss against Sri Lanka in Sri Lanka. And my take on all this White Ferns stuff is it's just the same White Ferns we've come to know, unfortunately, in recent years. And this is the thing to take away from this ODI series. T20 series still to come, but for all the ways that it looks like things have changed for the White Ferns, nothing's really changed. Like, they're playing, their wins and losses are basically the same. They've got a new coach, and the selections are just as weird. There's still a lack of confidence. There's still a fragility to all their mahi. And it's disappointing, but it is nothing new for the White Ferns. So I've done a big yarn about the White Ferns ODI series this morning on our website, thenews-cage.com, and at the moment, it's just all about the same old stuff for the White Ferns, unfortunately. And it looks like everything has changed. But like the T20 World Cup earlier this year, nothing's actually changed. And we'll see how the T20 International Series against Sri Lanka looks in the coming days. What's your leading banger from the Kiwi Sports Weekend?
Leading banger is that the Football Ferns have named their squad for the 2023 FIFA World Cup, which they will be co-hosting. And one thing stands out from that squad more than anything else, that is that this squad is full strength. There are no pesky injuries, long-term or short-term. There's so-and-so's got just a small niggly groin strain. They're not going to play this tour. So-and-so has busted their ACL. They're not going to play for another year. There's always a few of those banking up. Not this time. Everyone is available within reason. You know, they obviously didn't coax Abiesic out of retirement or anything, but that's different. Everyone is available. That has literally never happened for Jukka Kemplover as Football Ferns coach. Like, if you want, the record may not be fantastic for it, but if you look at things, there's two major asterisks that I think personally absolve her of any immediate blame. One is that they've played a lot of teams ranked higher than them. So, like, what do you expect? The other one is that she's never had a full strength 11 to be able to choose from. There's always been a key player missing. Like, how much depth do you think we have? That's not the case here. Anneli Longo's recovered from her ACL injury. Bria Percival recovered from her ACL/meniscus tear injury. Players like Liv Chance, Betsy Hassett, a few others had sort of like, injuries. Erin Naylor's another one, had injuries coming into the naming of the squad. They're all fit enough to be selected. No dramas there, which meant some decisions had to be made that were probably a little bit tricky. And the bravest of them was leaving out Michaela Moore, who, for her, it was just a case of, she had a year at Liverpool, then the year at Glasgow City, where a couple injuries, but also just not really being full strength. I mean, not getting big minutes at club level, which meant not having that match rhythm, which meant being a little bit less dominant at Football Ferns level, and then other players coming through, and then having been injured for most of the last 6 months as well means there hasn't been an opportunity to just bank up some form and make a statement. So, that's kind of how it goes. There's someone had to miss out. And I think one of the exciting things about that is it's rough for Michaela Moore, who did her Achilles on the eve of the last World Cup. So has missed out through injury and then through selection on consecutive World Cups, having been, regular throughout around those two. But I think it's a little bit tough for her, but also exciting overall for Kiwi football is that it's not just that can Michaela Moore play some more football and get back into the squad. It's like, to get back in the squad, you also have to edge out like Kate Taylor, who didn't make it, Mackenzie Barry, who didn't make it, Marissa Vandermeer, whoever else might come around in the next World Cup cycle too. Like, and these are just defenders, that's exciting. There are two midfielders, Longo and Percival, coming off ACL injuries. I mean, they needed a little bit more cover at centre midfield, so I wasn't expecting Daisy Cleverley to make the 23. I thought she probably deserved to as one of the 23 best players, but just to balance the squad, I wasn't expecting that. But I think you kind of probably had to play it safe with two players coming off long-term injuries in that position. Also good to see them pick an extra attacking option rather than a defender. I think you just need that variety on the bench in a World Cup kind of thing. You're more likely to be in a situation where you want to have a few extra strikers to choose from in the last 20 minutes than to want to bring on an extra fullback or something like that. There are 4 players in the squad with 100 plus caps. There are 4 players in the squad with fewer than 10. There were also 4 players in the squad who have between 30 and 80 caps. So that's a big chunk of the thing of where like players would be in their peak, sort of in that 30 to 80 cap range, about where you're coming into that thing where you've been around the team long enough. You're probably playing around about your best football. You're not over the top yet. You're sort of right in that sweet spot. Only 4 players in that spot, because that's kind of that middle class have had exposed with a few retirements since the last one, but we're building towards those things. Shout outs to Anneli Longo, Rhea Percival, and Ali Riley, who are all off to their 5th World Cup. Their Football Ferns play against Vietnam in a friendly game on Monday evening in Napier, which will be a funky one. That is their last public game. There'll be like unofficial closed door games, I assume, before the World Cup itself. But that's their last public game, their last official game before the World Cup. looking for an overdue win there, get some momentum to take into the World Cup itself, which begins 10 days after that against Norway at Eden Park. So, yeah, it doesn't get much bigger than this.
Got to watch out for those pitch invaders down in Napier. Just heads up to all the football fans.
Yes,
folk in security. There's they love running on the pitch in the Hawke's Bay. Next up for me, had a bit of time to really sit with the Warriors' loss to the Rabbitohs. I've written about it. Really digested what had happened. It was an unfortunate loss. I think the Warriors, they've got 2 of these losses, wet weather footy losses this season, and there were some decisions that didn't really embrace wet weather footy, like the makeup of their bench and stuff that we talked on the subscriber podcast. But also, I think the Warriors, their style of footy, they are just better suited to not monsoon conditions. Even though they're from Auckland, they should understand monsoon conditions in winter. I don't think they're suited to it, but I do have some indicators on Warriors footy that weren't on display against the Rabbitohs. And these can be taken to any NRL team, I reckon, that are key indicators of how the Warriors play their footy, what's working well, and what they do when they win. The first is the split in kicking. I think the kicking numbers for the Warriors was Sean Johnson had 15 kicks and Luke Metcalf had 1 kick. The Rabbitohs had Cody Walker and Lachlan Ilias splitting the kicking duties evenly. One of them had 12 kicks, the other had 13 kicks. Now, that's important in any rugby league team, especially NRL teams, let alone wet weather footy. If you've got 2 different kickers offering 2 different kicking games, and the Rabbitohs had 3 or 4 other dudes with multiple kicks, then you can control the game and you can also create points from your kicks as well. The second is the 10 meter per run mark. The Warriors did not have many blokes averaging 10 meters per run. Usually, the whole back 3 are 10 meters per run. You've got Fanua Blake. You've got anyone else. They all hit the 10 meter per run mark. Against the Rabbitohs, that didn't happen. And if you don't have many blokes averaging 10 meters per run, you're going to struggle to get down the other end of the field. Like, you're just going to lose the battle of territory, let alone when that is compounded by having one dude do all the kicking. Because you can load up on pressure on him, he's kicking from his own 40-meter line, rinse and repeat, then you're stuck in your end of the field as the Warriors were against the Rabbitohs. The last one is specific to the Warriors. Tohu Harris and Dylan Walker need to have at least 10 passes each. Harris had 10 passes against the Rabbitohs, but Dylan Walker only had 1 pass. And I think the Warriors need Dylan Walker having more passes than runs. When they're at their best, it might be Tohu Harris has 20 passes, Dylan Walker has 15 passes. That is Warriors footy. That is the best, that is the clearest indicator of the Warriors shifting the footy, getting to where they want to get to on the field. It involves a lot of passing from Tohu Harris and Dylan Walker. Because if Dylan Walker's got more runs than he does passing, then he's just a running forward. And he can do that, but that's not his strength. His strength is his speed and his skill in the middle for the Warriors. And like against the Rabbitohs, Dylan Walker was basically playing as a prop. And in wet weather footy, if you're loading up with Dylan Walker as a prop, you're probably going to lose that battle of the middle equation. And the Warriors were light on big boppers against the Rabbitohs for wet weather footy. But if anyone watched the New South Wales Cup game beforehand, Zion Mai'u, he is an absolute monster. He runs, said it plenty of times, he runs like a psycho, but he's actually a prop who runs like a psycho, which is far more funky than the wingers running like psychos. Zion Mai'u, he can help wet weather footy, so can Solomon Vasuvulangi. He's bigger and he's also quite mobile, so watch out for them. They are 2 players who I can see helping the Warriors in those real physical encounters in the future. Lest we forget the Warriors, they were also missing Marata Niokore and low-key, Dimitri Sifakula. because he's someone else who brings a lot of physicality to the middle, and the Warriors didn't have him either. So there you go. What else you got?
Number 2 is that they did it. The Tall Ferns, they did it. They went to the Asia Cup. They said, we're trying to finish 4th here. If we can finish 4th place, it'll keep us alive in Olympic qualifying, get us into one of those qualifying tournaments, I think later in the year or maybe early next year. And it would also be their best ever performance at an Asia Cup, having finished, I think, 6th, 5th, and 5th in their previous opportunities. And they did it. So don't freak about the last 2 games where they got thrashed by Japan, and then also Australia in the 4th place, 3rd and 4th place playoff. Got thrashed by China in the group stages too. Don't worry about that. There's a talent gap between those nations and Aotearoa, which is not going to be overcome by like good intentions and hard work rate and stuff like that. There's just factors they're better than us. So it goes. But those are top 10 teams in the world. What the Tall Ferns did do is they won against all the teams outside the top 10 that they played, including South Korea, who in the first game set the tone for their entire tournament with that fantastic, closely fought win. Blew them out in the first half and then closely fought in the end, which was, I talked about this last week, great victory, set the whole thing up. Beat Lebanon later on to ensure they qualified in 2nd place, although only just because Korea took China to overtime. And then had a really tricky game in the crossover against Philippines, which was, Philippines were just smaller, but also faster and just played really quick, really chaotic basketball. And the Tall Ferns, who like to get into their sets, play nice half court, moving the ball around a lot, were having a lot of trouble against that. It was difficult. But that's where 34 points from Charlie Sledger-Walker comes in very handy. That was the highest scoring individual game of the entire tournament for any player, for any team. Sent the Tall Ferns through in Olympic qualifying, sent them into the top 4 of the Asia Cup. Tadar Reid also had a fantastic game in that one too. Forget about the semi-final and the bronze medal game. Those were just bonuses. Overall, Charlie Sledger-Walker, 2nd top scorer in the entire competition. Penina Davidson was 2nd for rebounds and made the All-Star 5, which I believe is the 2nd Asia Cup in a row she's done that. She was in the All-Star 5 last time as well. Tara Reid, Talia Tupaya, Stella Beck, Taylor Dalton, even like a young player like Ratoya Tamilo coming off the bench as an 18-year-old and doing a few things in a couple of those games. It's a lot to like about this team. It was young and it was inexperienced, but it also feels like a core of a Tall Ferns team that is building towards getting better and better into the future. And hopefully this 4th place finish in Asia Cup can maybe not be the sort of like pipe dream, maybe become a bit more of the expectation in the future if they can nudge their way up the rankings a little bit more. Always played hardy defense and bright future ahead. I will say shooting remains an issue. Turnovers as well, bit of an issue. Of course, that was exaggerated in the games against the better teams, so it goes. But good stuff from the Tall Ferns. And I'm also willing to go on the record now and announce this. She's already played 30 odd times for the team, but this felt like a breakthrough tournament where it's like not just playing, but dominating now. So I'm willing to announce this as the dawn, this tournament, this 2023 Asia Cup was the dawning of the era of Charlie Sledger-Walker dominance for the Tall Ferns. And not just for the Tall Ferns, but across international basketball. Why not? And soon to be in the NBA, WNBA as well.
I was watching the Roosters lose to the Manly Seagulls. However, the Roosters had Siua Wong make his debut, long-awaited debut for Siua Wong. He's from Auckland. He's already represented Fiji. All my research suggested that he went to Mount Albert Grammar School, then he got recruited by the Roosters, went across and got into their system. And he made his debut. I wrote last year that Siua Wong played every level of rugby league except NRL last year. So SG Ball, Jersey Flag, New South Wales Cup, International. Now he's got the NRL debut to go with it. But there were a couple Siua Wong is just part of a young Roosters wave from Aotearoa that I'm really interested in. Nofahu White. I think the best Roosters team has Nofahu White in that team, either starting edge forward, maybe starting a lock or coming off the bench. But he is really impressive. He's been in and out of the Roosters NRL team all season. I'd like to see him stay in the top 17 consistently. He's really good. He's from Kelston Boys High School. So is Junior Ponga. Junior Ponga on the wing for the Roosters. He's been on a bit of a journey, came up through the Warriors system under 20s, then he went to Queensland. The Tigers recruited him from Queensland where he was playing with Wynnum. Praise Ja that Junior Ponga got out of the Tigers, goes to the Roosters, and now he's starting on the wing. And I think the reason Junior Ponga is a better winger for the Roosters than Jackson Polo, Northcote Jr., who is now signed with the Manly Seagulls. Not that the Manly Seagulls need any more outside backs. What's doing? But Junior Ponga, he's a bit quicker. He's a bit more agile. He's very powerful for his size, and I think that bit of speed helps the Roosters as well. Joey Manu was excellent at right centre for the Roosters. That's his best position apart from fullback when he's playing for the Aotearoa Kiwis. And the Roosters didn't... Jared Whitehead-Hargreaves, was playing that game, but the Roosters didn't have Satili Tupouniua or Brandon Smith. And anyone who's been following the Niche Case on Twitter, Instagram, got the YouTube shorts as well, you've been seeing the clips. Tavita Henare-Schuster from the Manawatu region, he's on the wing for their Jersey Flag team. He is excellent. They've got Cassius Tier in the halves from Auckland. Maris Jr., they've got Benaya Iowelu. He's from Otara. He's a hooking prospect coming through their system, let alone Salisi Fokete. He's a Manurewa Jr. who has been playing Jersey Flag as well. Layers of Kiwi-NRL youngsters in that Roosters team to keep an eye on. What else you got?
Yeah, my third listing here, a few jewels from the old Diamond League athletic meets over the weekend, which, I mean, there were two of them. There were two big meetings. One was in Lausanne, Switzerland. One was in Stockholm, Sweden. And you know how they do these things where it's like some events will be at one, other events will be at the other. So they sort of hold them within a week of each other. And there were several Kiwis involved. Normally only just kind of get Tom Walsh and maybe a runner or two sort of thing. There were heaps here at this one, which was great. And everyone seemed to be doing really well. Most of all, Hamish Kerr, high jump, won his event in the high jump. He was first Kiwi to win a Diamond League event stage since 2021. So a couple of years since Tom Walsh and Valerie Adams both won shot put events there. Hamish Kerr did it in the high jump. That was beautiful. Doubt there are too many others ever really to have won Diamond League individual events. I will have to do the research on that because I haven't done it yet. But great work from Hamish Kerr. Keep in mind, all this stuff is being said in the context of there is an Olympic Games next year as well. So this is right about the time you want to start breaking into that career best form. Tom Walsh himself finished second at his one. He's had two second place finishes this time. I think 21.99 was his distance, which was fine, except that old mate Ryan Krauser was competing. So Walsh was about 50 centimeters ahead of anyone else in the field, but Krauser was about 30 centimeters ahead of Walsh, and all five of Krauser's counted throws were further than 22 meters, which is slightly better than Walsh's peak. So it goes, but that's another good solid effort from Tom Walsh. There's no shame in being beaten by the best shot putter of all time, the multiple Olympic winner and the world record holder. Also great to see Eliza McCartney back. She finished third. Another podium finish. 3 podium finishes over the weekend. Another podium finish for a Kiwi. Eliza McCartney third in her pole vaulting event. Just great to see. Like, brilliant after coming back from so many injuries after such a long time. And this is, again, like another one. We're just getting back right at the right time to get a year's run in towards the Olympics. Chuck in some long-distance runners in the form of George Beamish and Sam Tanner. Both had top 5 finishes in their efforts. Sweet as. However, the most consequential Kiwi athletic event of the weekend was probably one that happened outside the Diamond League. Zoe Hobbs did have a Diamond League race. She ran a solid 5th place in Lausanne in the women's 100 meters. Just another good, decent effort considering her great form over the last year. However, she hung around in Switzerland because a few days later there was another meeting, not a Diamond League one, but just a sort of general athletics meet. And there, in her heat, she ended up, I think she won the whole thing, actually, in that thing. But however, it was the heat that really counted, because in her heat, she ran a 10.96 second personal best, beat her personal best that she set earlier this year, a couple months ago, which was a 10.97, which also means not only personal best, but of course, New Zealand record, Oceania record as well. On top of that, extending her best. And most importantly, Olympic qualifying time. cracked in under the margin, which means that she will be the first Kiwi female sprinter to go to an Olympic Games since 1928. Just the second overall. Like, you think how long ago? It's nearly 100 years ago. Like 1928 is round about the time that they started getting talking movies. It's right at the end of the silent era. That's how long ago that was. Zoe Hobbs doing some absolute historical stuff there.
I'm sticking to the NRL flavor, and I just want to highlight some of the Kiwi-NRL Raiders, because the Raiders also had a win. I think they had a win over the Titans in the NRL. Raiders have won 4 of their last 5 games, 8 of their last 10 games. So the loss for the Raiders against the Warriors was a point of difference. That's their only loss in the last 5 games. So that tells you what the Warriors did against the Raiders. But really enjoying Raiders footy. Matthew Tomoko at centre. He's playing the best footy of his career. So is Joseph Tapine. And with Jordan Rapana, these 3 fit into like the Aotearoa Kiwis equation. I've got Joseph Tapine in my top 3 Kiwis middle forwards. The best rotation I've got is Moses Leota, James Fisher-Harris, the Panthers starting prop duo, and then you've got Joseph Tapine in there as well. Like, that's the big 3. Lots of depth. Mentioned Wade-Hargreaves before. You can throw in anyone else you want as well. But those 3 are the 3. Joseph Tapine, Fisher-Harris, and Leota. This is actually a career high meters per game for Joseph Tapine this season. 166 meters per game against the Titans. 6 tackle busts. Nothing major. 108 meters and 43 tackles. No missed tackles for Joseph Tapine. He is exceptional in the middle for the Raiders. Matthew Tomoko. Last season, Matthew Tomoko, he averaged just a quiet 109 meters per game. Now he's up to 157 meters per game, and he's on track to surpass his try assist and line break tally from last season. Matthew Tomoko, Jordan Rapana's in the same vein of form, but his form isn't statistical. Jordan Rapana's form is just like he's everywhere. He does everything. He pops up at the right time, right place, and makes the right play. Can't go wrong with Jordan Rapana, watching Jordan Rapana play footy. Rapana and Tomoko, they're in this like Aotearoa Kiwis outside back depth that I can't come up with my best combination. But you've got Manu, Nickel Clockstar as fullbacks. Rapana's in the wing equation with Jermaine Sako, Ronaldo Mulatalo, and Dallin Watene-Zelezniak. So I don't you select 3 players out of those 5 players, or 6 players, sorry. I don't know how you do it. Like, you can say Rapana at fullback, maybe you go Joey Manu at centre and Nickel Clockstar at centre, but then you got Matthew Tomoko. Matthew Tomoko deserves to be a starting centre for the Aotearoa Kiwis. So then it's like, okay, we go Manu at fullback, Tomoko at centre, Nickel Clockstar at centre, but then I've got 4 wingers trying to fit into 2 positions. It's absolutely crazy. But they are all there. And also shout out to Ata Mariota. He started at prop, I think, in that game. He is a beast, and he's also from Manurewa. I think he came up through Manurewa High School. Then he got recruited to go across to the Raiders. So he is now firmly in that Raiders top 17 as well. Your turn.
I've been waiting a little bit impatiently, actually, for some of the sort of transfer dominoes to fall with the Flying Kiwis football guys and girls. Although I think with the women, we'll probably got to wait till the World Cup gets done before clubs really start cracking into the transfers and stuff there. I think that might just be one that has to wait another month. However, July 1st is the day where people whose contracts were expiring officially become free agents. So I was, waiting patiently for that stuff to start cracking into it, and we're there now. And the first of those dominoes has fallen with Max Crocombe. I mean, I guess you could count guys like Stumanich and Thomas and Garbett re-upping with their clubs, but that's like sort of, we knew that months in advance. I'm talking about the new window stuff, and yeah, Max Crocombe has joined Burton Albion on a 2-year deal. He left Grimsby Town as a free agent, having played all 59 games for them last season, played every minute of every game across every competition, which is absolute insanity. So he's leaving a guaranteed starter spot, but he is also moving up from League Two to League One. So he's jumping up a spot in the pyramid. Good yarn should also remain a starter at Burton Albion for two clear reasons. One is that Burton Albion at the time of signing Crocombe have no other goalkeepers currently in their roster. So that stacks up that he'll be playing goalkeeper for them. And then also their manager, fellow by the name of Dino Mumria, actually managed Max Crocombe several years ago at the start of his career when they were both at Stockport County in non-league football. So it's a bit of a reunion, a few spots up the divisions there. Nice upward move for a bloke whose all-whites chances have probably never been as strong as they are right now, never been sturdier given that Ollie Sale didn't quite grasp onto those gloves and the opportunities he's had so far. He's made pretty much a lateral move to Perth Glory. Nick Zanev was in the most recent squad as well. There have been some rumours of him. He's been playing League Two with AFC Wimbledon. He used to play League One, but they got relegated the year before last. Been some rumours of him maybe going to Blackburn in the Championship. He'd probably have to be a backup, but it would also mean jumping up a couple of divisions. Jamie Searle is at Barnsley. He was their third choice keeper in League One last year. He looks like, doing some research there, looks like he's probably going to be back up this year. It seems like a couple of the guys, one was on loan and one of the other keepers is left, and they still have the starter from last year, but still looks like he will hopefully be the backup. Meanwhile, other guys who've been in squads more recently, Michael Vowd just needs to move. He's not getting games in Japan. Stefan Marinic doesn't even have a club. You do have Alex Paulson and Case Sims, youth team standouts at the moment for under 23s, and also Sims still for the under 20s at the last World Cup. Feels like a wide open race for goalkeeping right now, and that's even before considering whatever the impacts of baseball might be, with Darren Baisley having been announced as the new permanent manager for the All Whites. Didn't have time to talk about it in this because it happened while we were recording our subscriber pods. So I'll have to formulate some ideas and write about that in the future. What do you got next?
My last note is Mitchell Santner being really good at cricket. In the T20 Blast, Mitchell Santner's got 11 wickets and an average of 29, RPO of 7.3, but with the bat, Mitchell Santner's got 391 runs at an average of 35 and a strike rate of 152. He's absolutely whacking bombs. I think he's playing for Worcestershire in the T20 Blast. This comes after Mitchell Santner. I don't know if many people have... Now we're seeing the whole Spark Sports situation. I'm not sure how many people really tapped in with Super Smash Cricket, but Mitchell Santner was the MVP of back-to-back Super Smash championships for Northern Districts. Partly with the bat, partly with the ball, but right now in the T20 Blast, he's got 391 runs at a strike rate of 152, and that is going to be useful at an ODI World Cup coming up. Your last Kiwi Sports note.
My last couple of weeks, I've been doing this spot. I've just had like NBL notebook stuff and just running through a few ideas. This week, there's only one idea. I just want to talk about Rob Loe, because Rob Loe putting up astonishing numbers for the Auckland Tuatara. In 15 games, he's averaged 21.1 points, 11.5 rebounds, 4.2 assists, 2.0 steals, 2.3 blocks. So he's at least 2 on every one of those 5 stats. He is shooting 59% from the field, 44% from 3, 72% from the free throw line. Maybe needs to up his free throws just a little bit because the other two are like world-class numbers. He has not scored less than 13 in any individual game this season. And the game in which he scored 13, he had a season-high 10 assists. He has only had one game all season in which he shot less than 50% from the field. Only had one game this season without a double-double. He has at least one block in every game. He has at least one steal in all but 2 games. He has at least 23 points in his last 7 games in a row. His Tuatara team have won 10 games in a row. They are top of the ladder. Forget about all the imports. That bloke right there, Robert Loe, he is your MVP of this season.
Musical Jam. We've got a new project from Al the Chemist. The Alchemist. That is a mandatory listen. The Alchemist Flying High EP. Nice and tightly packed as most of his projects are. You've got guest appearances from Earl Sweatshirt, Boldy James. TF is a recent addition to the Alchemist stable as well. That's always a good jam. Al the Chemist. We've also got Dallas Tamaira, the lead singer guy for Fat Freddy's Drop. He's got a new jam, Leaning, which is always a good jam. You cannot go wrong with the greatest musical act out of Aotearoa, Fat Freddy's Drop. specifically Dallas Tamaira, new song Leaning, your musical jam.
Yeah, I got similar actually. I got a couple here, one local and one foreign. The foreign one is the Alalas. They got a new band, new album coming out. There's two actually singles, two lead singles that have come out. There's sort of like a San Francisco-y, let's call them surf rock, like throwback kind of twangy guitars and stuff. Real like breezy summer day tunes. I've loved their work in the past. Um, we'll love their work in the future. They're just a great band. And then the local one, Clementine Valentine, new song called, I think it's called Time and Tide, and it's the second single off their upcoming album. Clementine Valentine used to be known as Purple Pilgrims, and they did an album or two. There was one in particular a couple of years ago which was really good, really loved it, kind of like a synthy pop kind of, but with a bit of a like I don't know, a bit of a gothic edge, I suppose, something along those lines. And yeah, there was like loved what they've done in the past. They've rebranded it as with a new band name, Clementine Valentine. Couple new tunes out there that are fantastic. There we go.
Big up yourself. Big up Aotearoa. And just do your best in the middle of winter. We're out here, we're trying, as are you. Stay safe, kia kaha, stay beautiful, church.